I'm Chip Townsend, and this is the Team Chip Podcast. Today on the Team Chip Podcast, we're going to talk about inspiring role models. And speaking of, one of my most inspiring role models and friend and student, Mr. Jerry Huffaker. He's been a student of ours for a little over 20 years now and is just an amazing salt of the earth man that has inspired so many lives just by quietly leading along. It's going to be awesome. All right, guys, I am, so excited. You guys are in for a treat today. I have a man here who is a friend. He has served as friend, mentor, student, and all of the above. His name is Jerry Huffaker. Welcome, Mr. Jerry Huffaker. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely,
I'm
man.
glad to be here.
I am more glad that you're here than you are to be here, I think, because I'm excited. So part of the reason I'm excited is today's episode is kind of around role models, inspiring role models, something like that. So you have been just a monster inspiration to me. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about what got you started in your martial arts, what attracted you and how old were you when you started? And we'll talk a little bit about those things. So just kick me off. What got you started in martial arts?
Well, I'm going to go back even a little bit further.
Yes, sir.
And I won't try to take up too much time with my life, but I started working for a man that mowed yards for a living when I was 17.
Right.
Well, he owned the very first health club in Abilene, Texas.
Wow.
And you remember it, the Olympic Health Club.
I do.
It was over where Lusky's was.
Yes.
Kind of where Harbor Freight, around in there.
Right.
Okay, so he said, okay, you boys, me and a buddy of mine, he said, I'm gonna work y'all hard this summer, but if you work for me, you have to work out at the gym.
Nice.
And he said, you have to put in 2 days a week lifting weights if you work for me. And I needed the job, so I said, okay, let's go.
Let's go.
So, I played sports a little bit as a kid, played some baseball and stuff like that, but, before the rodeo days, but we started working out, and I've never stopped.
Wow. How powerful.
And that's 50 years ago.
Well, what's beautiful about that speaks right in role models. This guy modeled something for you, expected something of you, and held.
That's exactly
and now,
right.
How many years later? 50 years later.
Yeah. Still working out.
Still working out.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, listen, man, if you're listening, this guy, he works out. He's here typically 5 to 6 days a week training on the mat. Just a little bit of history, just so you know. Jerry is a 3rd degree black belt in our traditional Taekwondo and kind of kickboxing program, our traditional program. But he's also now a purple belt, a 1st degree purple belt in our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program, and an amazing martial artist. So keep that in mind as we progress forward with this. So we'll go back 50 years ago. You got inspired by a boss.
Yeah, and he actually made the Olympic team. His name was Roger Orrell.
Wow.
And he made the Olympic team in '68 shot put. But he tore his shoulder out and didn't get to go. So and he's the one that owned the health club at the time. And that's how my exercising consciousness of fitness and health got started at a very young age.
Wow.
And it just kept going. And there's been some ups and downs. There's been some times when I was in college where all I could do is just get out and run around the block and do push-ups and stuff. It wasn't organized. But and when I was rodeoing, there wasn't a whole lot of gym going and that sort of thing.
Right.
It was just hard work and
that's hard.
Push-ups and walking and pushing lawnmowers and just working hard every day.
Well, it's man work. It's man work.
True.
I'm sitting here thinking today, I don't know. I mean, I have some pretty hard requirements for our staff. They have to train in our instructor trainings. They have to be working out. We have a philosophy. We're martial artists first, we're teachers second, and business people third, right? And so... But I was just thinking when you said this guy had a lawn care business, said, oh, by the way, man, you want to work for me? You got to hit the gym at least 2 days a week. Can you imagine doing that to a kid today?
Oh, yeah.
It would
Arrow Ford or something.
Yeah. it would boggle their minds. You would have a mom calling going, now my son can't do that because it's like, you got to be kidding me. Anyway, that's hilarious, but that's so cool. I mean, I just think about the power of that, guys. If you're listening, 50 years ago, someone gave him an expectation and held him to it, got him on a path, and that path hasn't ended, man. That's beautiful.
It really hasn't.
Now you can begin to understand why I have so much respect for this guy right here. So all right, man.
Into the martial arts thing of it, that's what, of course, in the beginning, I put my grandson in. He didn't really do well in sports, didn't like the team concept and all that, which I could relate to that.
Yes, sir.
That's one of the reasons I enjoyed my rodeoing so much, because it's an individual sport. Everything's up to you. You don't have anybody yelling at you. And
right.
Anyway, so I thought this would be a great thing for him, and it was.
Yes,
sir. It was, and he went for many years. I don't know how old he was but he got to recommend black.
Right.
And then moved on with his life later on. But I was the typical, of course, I'm the grandfather, but I was the typical parent. I was sitting on the sidelines going, here I am sitting an hour every day. I'm just sitting here. Why don't I just get out there and have some fun?
Right. But wait, real quick. If you're a parent listening, get off the bench. Get in a uniform and let's go. Okay, go ahead, Jerry.
It's just fun. You see everybody out there working out and having fun. And there were some guys I knew. I'm older than them, but that's okay. Let's get out there and get after it.
Absolutely.
And so I just got a uniform, started training. I'm self-employed, been self-employed for 45 years. And anybody who owns a business knows everything that happens in that business. When I walk in there, I have to do everything. I have to make right. Even if you have staff. You still have to make all the decisions. Everything's up to you. Everything that happens, profits, everything. And I can come down here and I don't have to make a single decision.
Right.
You and Glen Ann have always had everything laid out step by step. And all you really have to do, and I've said this to you before, all a person has to do when you come down here is just follow the directions.
Follow directions.
Just follow the directions and be a part of it. Sometime down the road, if you'll stick to it, you'll have some great results.
You will.
Whatever you want your results to be, whether it's the belts or health or whatever it is. If you'll just come in, follow the directions, it works.
Absolutely, man. I love that. I love that. And by the way, I'm not paying this guy to talk. He's just telling his story.
And you might have to take me to lunch or something. You owe me.
I do.
You owe me a lot of steaks.
I do.
I got them listed.
This is awesome. So what happens is we get in a pickle on staff, every now and then for like a lunch class or something. And he's my go-to guy. Like, hey, Jerry, would you cover that class for me? So I probably do owe you a handful of steak.
I am going to call that in one of these days.
I love it, man. Let's do it. So I want to hop back real quick to what was your age when you started? Kind of talk about that a little bit. Because you started with your son.
I think I was 46.
46.
I was 46.
That's what I was thinking. What inspired you to start martial arts yourself? You talked about your grandson. What inspired you to kind of stick with it? Because whenever Sonny got kind of into the teens, he pulled out and moved on with life. So what kept you going?
What made me stick with it, I'm going to have to say, would be that I enjoyed the workouts. And I don't mean just the physical part, but the mental workout as well. Because that's the great thing about this. Y'all have a little saying, it's like fitness with a purpose.
Yes, sir.
That's a very important part of this thing for me.
Right.
Because even, as we get older, I mean, it just happens that you need to work your mind as much as you do your body. And the two challenges together are one of the reasons that kept me going.
Right.
That, and y'all have the belts laid out and the testings and all that kind of stuff gives you goals to work for.
Right.
Short-term, medium-term, long-term goals. The way you've got it laid out makes you kind of want to work for that as you move forward. But it was mostly the physical and mental exercise is cool. What kept me going, because I enjoyed it, and it was completely different. I'd burned out on the gyms and the weightlifting. And
I remember you talking to me about that.
Yeah, I just burned out on all that, people yelling, slamming weights, and, half those places are not very clean. And down here was just so nice. You could walk in here and it's exciting, and the kids are all over the place having fun, and you got adults having fun, working out and feeling good about themselves.
This week we had a family, a husband and wife and their 3 children, who own and operate a martial arts school in another city here in Texas, a couple hundred miles away. And they came to visit. We became friends kind of at arm's length a couple of years ago, chatted a little bit, and he was like, hey, could we come and see how your business operates and how the school flows? one of the comments from this other school owner was, we couldn't believe the level of kind of excitement and electric feeling your building has from front to back in all of your classes. And I think that's powerful. Again, back to atmosphere and culture, but just the power of having a passionate, exciting place. So real quick, let's talk about your kind of journey and your Taekwondo training. Tell me a little bit about that. I got a funny story. You know where I'm going probably with this story.
Probably.
But give me some of your ups and downs with your Taekwondo side.
Well, I think initially some of the difficulties were flexibility.
Right.
And a 46-year-old man who literally had never stretched at all.
Right.
And this sounds crazy, but I could just bend over and put my palms below my kneecaps.
Yes, sir.
That's how flexible I was. And it wasn't embarrassing. That's just the way it was.
Right.
I never did do that sort of thing. So I struggled with that, and it took me a while. But the consistency of just coming and trying and keep going, and gradually that got way, way better. And
right.
now I'm actually feel like I'm pretty flexible for a guy my age.
Well, just so you guys understand too, I know it's hard. We don't have visual here, but Jerry can put his feet at shoulder width and put his palms on the floor with his legs straight, right? So the level of flexibility you gained was tremendous.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've used you probably hundreds and hundreds of times as an example, as I have more mature students come in and go, oh, but I can't be flexible, or and I go, well, I do have this guy that started, and
I
he
know a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy. he could barely get his hands past his knees, but now he can do scissor splits and almost a full center split, and his palms on the floor, and they're just like, what?
And a lot of that too is a progression distance, like you're always talking about. That's nothing compared to what some of these kids can do,
right.
or a gymnast or something.
Right.
That's nothing compared to what they can do. But the progression that I've made from where I started to get to there is huge for me personally. And that's why I'm down here. I'm not down here trying to be better than them. I'm trying to be better than what I was yesterday, as
guys,
they say nowadays.
Hear that. Not a competition. You're only competing with yourself, just trying to be better than you were the day before, right? That's so, so, so powerful. Well, we're probably going to get all over the place in this because I'm like beaming inside with different things. So I want to tell a quick story. I remember one day walking through the building, and our dressing rooms have not quite all the way to the ceiling wall. So they're short, almost like temporary walls, but they're about, they're like 8 foot high, plenty high. And I hear this funky noise in the dressing room as I'm passing by, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. That is weird. So I crack the boys' dressing room door open and see you sitting on the little bench with a knee brace on and a roll of duct tape. And you're peeling duct tape off and taping your knee brace on. I said, Jerry, what are you doing? And you said, putting on my knee brace. And I said, well, I see that. Why are you taping it?
Can't you see what I'm doing?
Yeah, it's pretty worn out. I can see like the metal sticking out through the through the neoprene or whatever on the sides, and it's very well worn, right? And so I'm like, why are you taping it on? Well, it won't stay up good. And I was like, what's going on with your knee, man? Now I want to back up. When you started, I think you had told me, you had a little trouble with one of your knees.
Maybe in the beginning.
I didn't think anything about it. So this is when you're at your red belt. So and because of the way that you would wait for Sonny on testings, this is a few years into training.
Yeah. I was kind of behind the regular schedule.
Right.
Because I didn't I wanted to test with Sonny.
With Sonny. Yeah, with your grandson. And that was another reason I loved you so much. You weren't in it for you. At that time, you were kind of in it for him too. And it was like, this is cool. Sometimes people get competitive and they're like, I'm testing no matter who does, right? You never did that. But anyway, you're taping this knee brace on. I said, what's going on with your knee? And you said, well, when I was about 17, I rodeoed, and I'd load up my horse and I would travel around Texas and rodeo. And you had a crash at a rodeo at some point. And you tore your ACL.
Tore my ACL when I was 17.
17.
Yeah.
And you had never had it fixed. So I'm standing there absolutely boggled because I've been having you do jumping kicks, spinning kicks, and you would make adjustments sometimes, but you never complained and you always got them done. And I'm thinking, you don't have an ACL. And I've had people, tear an ACL, or know people that have torn ACLs. Their life stops. I mean, their life stops.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had a hard time believing it. I was like, you don't have a what? And you're like, yeah, I don't have an ACL. I'm like, you've been doing all of this stuff with us, and I've been on that mat with you doing it all this time without an ACL in your knee. Absolutely.
That's right.
And so that was mind-boggling. So I
rodeoed for years. I rode saddle broncs. I rodeoed through college and paid for a bunch of my college rodeo and rodeoed professionally for 5 years and never had an ACL in my right knee. Back then, I just used ACE bandage.
Right. Wrap it
up real tight as you could, and go ahead and do it. And
guys, I'm just gonna say this. I don't care if you like it or not. This is a man. This is a man, right? I mean, like, there's no question. There's no.
I'm so glad you don't know everything about me.
That's right. This is a man. Like, this is what man is. What a man should do, right? You go out there, and he's working 10, 12 hours a day. As a matter of fact, I remember having conversations with you saying, Jerry, will you please not work on Sundays sometimes and take a day off, right? Like, hey, I call you for some random reason. I'm out in the shop working. Dude, it's Sunday afternoon.
Get out of there, man.
Get out of the shop. Go home. Go spend some time with the family, man. But the other side of that is I had so much respect because my dad was very much that way too. Like 6-7 days a week, whatever it took to raise the family, whatever it took to feed and provide and protect and do those things that men should be freaking doing, right? So anyway, back to the ACL, just a mind-boggling thing. And so
let me mention one thing.
Please.
It's not as big a deal as it sounds.
Yes, it is.
Because I got used to it. That's the thing.
It's a big deal. Well, you did get used to it.
I got used to it.
But still, come on, man. All right, let's talk real quick about you did, traditional Taekwondo for years. You worked all the way up to your third degree. So after you tested for your recommend, another time period of training, a long period, and you tested for first. More years past training, you test for second. More years past, you test for third. And then we began our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program. And now you still will once in a while do a traditional class, but mostly you're focused on your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
It is. Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. You enjoying it? What attracted you to it? How are you feeling with what's going on there?
I like the grappling. We started, we actually been grappling long before the Jiu-Jitsu program was going. Because we did... you had a Hapkido program for years.
Right.
And I don't know how many years it went, but I was in that from start to finish.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of grappling in that. Mm-hmm. And it was I'd say 25 or 30% grappling.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the rest of it was the Hapkido part of it.
Right.
But I really enjoyed that part of it.
Right.
And I just think it's really important to know what to do if somebody gets you on the ground.
Absolutely. 100%.
And that's really all there is to it. And it's very, very technical, and it's not as explosive, and you have to think a lot more. And I like that part of it. And it's a great workout.
Yeah, it's a killer.
It's a different kind of workout.
I was about to say that you hit that right.
It's different, but it's just as good a workout as kicking and punching. It's just different. It's a different kind of workout.
Absolutely. Well, we've kind of talked about your backstory, and I want to move just a little bit into, I want you, Jerry, to define like the goal of this talk, and it's easy for you and I to get off track because we've been friends for years. Yeah. But I think it's all been so important for people to understand kind of who you are, what kind of man you are. You're a man of God. You're just a good man. And I know I keep saying that, and it's probably, you're inside probably a little embarrassed and bothered by it.
You're really going to owe me now, boy.
He just called me boy. Now that people have kind of gotten to know you a little bit, we've talked quite a bit. I love the stories and the time with you. I want you to kind of talk about like role model. Like, this is supposed to be about role models.
Yeah.
You have been a role model for me. I don't know how many times I've set you down and just kind of vented a little bit to you, and you've given me perspective on life and on finances, on different things at different times. And I absolutely just, I'm thankful for it. So to you, what is a good role model? Just kind of talk about that.
Well, I'll have to go back to my number one, 1, 2, 3 role models in my life, human-wise, people, are my grandmother, my mother, and my dad.
Very cool.
My mother and my dad were greatest generation people. Everybody's heard the stories.
Right.
And they were two people that grew up in poverty.
Right.
And they spent their whole lives working to make our lives better.
Right.
And it set some boundaries in my life, I would say, that I feel like that I have to live up to.
Right.
And I have to live up to that because I watched them, and their whole focus in life was to make this world a better place. And there is no human being alive, including myself, that could ever work as hard as my grandmother and my mother and dad did.
Wow.
They worked until the day they died. They were working.
That's awesome.
And they never stopped working. And watching that example of people who were, they were high school educated. All three of them were, and I like to tell a story about my mother when she was in school. It was during the war, and when she graduated, there was no graduation. She grew up she went to school in a little one-room schoolhouse out in the country in Arden, Texas, just right south of town here, about an hour. And they didn't graduate. What you did was you did your studies, and when the teacher thought that you knew enough, there was an examiner from the state, and he would come by and give you an exam.
Right. And
then if you passed, well, he signed a piece of paper and gave it to you and left.
Right.
And that was it. That was it. And when she went home, my grandmother and her dad, my granddad, they said, okay, it's time to get out.
Right.
And so she moved to San Angelo and went to work. She was 16.
Wow.
Yep.
16.
16. Didn't have a car or anything. They took her in there and got her set in a little apartment. She got her job, went to work.
Wow.
And my mother was in the workforce for probably 65 years.
Wow.
Yeah. My dad worked during World War II. He was 1A for the draft, but they wouldn't draft him.
Will you quickly, what does 1A mean,
1A
Jerry?
means that you're on top of the list.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't understand for sure.
Well, the war was going on hard, and he was 18. Well, he was working in a factory, and they fired him, and nobody'd hire him because he was 1A.
They were afraid he was going to get drafted.
Yeah, it's like, we don't hire that guy. He's fixing to go. So he went out to California and worked in the dry docks out there on submarines and stuff during the war.
Wow.
But when he came back, he went back to upholstering and started his business, and he was self-employed for, I don't know, probably 55, 60 years of his life. He was self-employed.
Right.
Just like me, just worked all the time. And
his
dad was a plumber, and so I'm a third-generation small businessman. All I've ever seen as examples is what we're talking about.
Right.
Are people who just work.
Right.
They get up and work every day. They're not afraid of it. No, they're not afraid of hard work. They're not afraid of being tired. And they don't mind having a big pile of work ahead of them every day.
Right.
My mother was a master at that. And she was the one that always got after me because I'm not as good at it as she was about cleaning messes up.
Right.
And she said, well, the way you clean a mess up is one piece at a time. Pick that one off the top, do something with it, and then go to the one that's under it.
Right.
And
it's just simple.
Yeah.
Simple, but yet hard.
Just great. I can't say enough about my parents. Solid people. Never heard my dad say a cuss word. Never saw him have a drink of alcohol of any kind. My mother either. She was a little hot-tempered, but
imagine that
in a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah. And but that's where my example of how to succeed in life came, and it was very simple: work hard and be a good person.
Yep. Okay.
There's really not much else to say.
Saying it again: work hard and be a good person. You said something a while ago that I thought was really powerful. They worked every day to make this a better place. You said something like that. I may be a hair off.
Make the world a better place.
Make the world a better place.
And for us, for us kids,
right?
Me and my sister.
So you think they were driven by the responsibility of taking care of their family? Is that what kind of
I think that had a lot to do with it.
Right.
I think a lot of it was fear.
Right.
I think they got up every day afraid that something like they had to go through in their youth would happen to us.
Right.
And they just weren't going to let that happen.
Right.
They were determined to not let that happen.
Right.
And they didn't.
And
I will admit they kind of spoiled us a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not in a bad way.
Right.
They didn't overgive or anything like that. Like, I don't know if my dad ever, he never discouraged me from doing anything.
Right.
But he didn't really encourage me either. He kind of let me make the decision.
Right.
You want to play baseball? You bet. I'll be there every practice.
Right.
But he never said, well, you got to do this, you got to do that, except when it came to character.
Right.
You have to behave. This is how you have to behave.
Right.
And they weren't mean to us at all. They just made rules in the very beginning that we had to live by.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of things back then. And, I'm not really that old. But
No.
there were things when we were kids that, you didn't run into a room and start talking when adults were talking to each other.
Yes, sir.
You just didn't do it.
Right.
It's like, nope, you don't.
You wait
do
your
that.
turn. You wait
wait
till the time is right.
Walk in a room, stand around a little bit. There in a minute, Mama would look at you and go, okay, what do you need?
Right.
But you don't run around. You're not rude. We were taught manners and in a lot of different ways. And I really appreciate that.
Oh my gosh. Listen, he appreciates that. So, you said something a while ago as you were talking just then, you said they weren't mean, but they laid down boundaries early and they were clear boundaries for you and you knew them and you just followed them, right? I think that's missing, man. That's missing in today's society so much. And you also said that they kind of spoiled you some,
They did.
Every next generation and here's the thing. There's no malintent, but I want my kids' life to be maybe a little better than mine. And that lends itself to kind of spoiling them a little bit or making things, letting things be easy for them. And I think that's where we have to fight that and have a balance. And look, here's the clear boundaries. You don't cross those. Absolutely, we'll celebrate the good times and we're going to fight through the bad times,
That's right.
But man, that's such powerful stuff.
It is. They were, like I said, they were not mean to us at all. There were some paddlings when we were little.
Right.
But,
I can't imagine Jerry Huffaker needing a paddling.
Yeah. I'm glad my mother's not here. She might have a different story for you. Yeah, but anyway, it was a good life, and I was very, very blessed to have the family I had. Wasn't perfect. Nobody's perfect.
Nice.
But, you can look back and find bad things about anything, but I'd rather look back and think about how good it was and how good it was for me and my sister because, it's a good family. And we both got good families. Patty's been married for 45 years, I think.
Right.
Beth and I have been married 39. We'll have 40 in next November
Nice.
this year. So, and I think a lot of that comes from, being raised by rock solid people who set down boundaries and rules in the beginning.
Yes.
And one of the things my dad taught me from a young age was when you turn 18, you're on your own.
Right.
And you're not going to live with us anymore.
Right.
So you need to get ready unless you go to college.
Right.
So if you go to college, I'll help you a little bit, but you're going to have to work and pay for most of it.
Right.
And you can come home and live in the summer. But when you come home in the summer, you got to have a job.
Got to have a job. Yeah.
And you got to work all the time. Mm-hmm. And I started working when I was 12.
Right.
Not now, of course, not a job. You
Understood.
know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I mowed the A&W Root Beer, which is across the street from Abilene High School when I was 12 years old, and I mowed the guy's yard. He was a friend of my dad's. They lived around the corner over there for money.
Right.
And I know it was a whole lot more trouble for him to take me over there
Yes,
and
sir.
get it done than what I was doing.
But
I
man,
thought I
that's
was doing. I thought I was big shot.
So powerful because they were sacrificing their time, their resources to take you over, make that happen, to teach you values.
That's right.
And man, that's what's missing. I not at all comparing with you, but I negotiated, I mentioned this before, my first hourly wage when I was 4 with my dad in the driveway of our house. And it was just a game. It was just a fun thing, right? And summer was coming, and I knew I wanted to go with my dad in the summer. I was 4. Dude, we were working in the oil field. We were going on actual drilling rigs, and he would take me with him.
When you were 4?
When I was 4, yeah.
I'm sure OSHA's not around.
Yeah, well, at that time, that wasn't really a thing. I was like, yeah, you're all right. So
come on.
I hauled tools and carried stuff, and of course, in the beginning, how much work did I do? Probably none. He would give me. They would build substructures, these big structures that go under a drilling rig to hold it up, holds up the drawworks and the derrick and all the stuff, and it was so heavy duty. They used these welding rods called jet rods that are just huge, and when you weld with those, it leaves a giant covering of flux over that weld. And so one of my jobs was to put on my little safety glasses and to take a chipping hammer and go chip flux.
Yeah.
Well, What I didn't realize at the time is they sandblast and paint those things. There was zero need for me to be doing that. Yeah. And so, but the point was my dad was taking the time to teach me something.
Mm-hmm.
He was teaching me how to earn and teaching me how to work.
He didn't
and
just
set
stick a
boundaries
phone in your hand and say, sit in the truck.
Set in the truck. That's right.
Of course, there wasn't any phones in your hand back then. Anyway.
So anyway, good times, man.
Work ethic.
Yep.
Work ethic.
It's something we have to teach our kids.
Can't say that enough.
Yeah. Say it again. Work ethic.
Work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what you're doing.
Right.
Marriage, friendship.
Oh, gosh. We could have so many. You're going to have to come back and do this again. I choose every day. Don't want to get off into this. We're not going to talk about it much, but I choose every day to love Glen Ann. We've been married for 32 years, but I have to make a conscious choice every day. I love that woman, and I love her more every day. And
it gets easier, though.
Oh, absolutely easier. And I'm boggled like how much more I love her today than I did when we were married 10 years, right? I didn't think it was possible, but it is, and it's the weirdest dynamic.
It's not more, though. That's not a good word. You
don't think so?
It's different.
It's deep. I don't know. It's deeper.
That's a better word.
Yeah, there you go. It's deeper. Yeah. So anyway, with that said, that's a whole nother conversation that we could have for probably hours, you and I. So I love it. Role models. They set boundaries. They teach work ethic. My mom's words all of my life were firm but fair. Firm but fair. Mm-hmm. There's a boundary. I'm going to be firm with that boundary, but I'll be fair with you. You know, if there's a extenuating circumstance, we might work around that boundary, but I'll be fair on that, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's really powerful for people to hear. So
it is.
Don't want to get off into marriage and child rearing too much, but I know they're all tied together and it all matters. Mm-hmm. Man, so Jerry, thank you for being here and the time. I want to have you back and chat some more about some more areas because we had an outline and we only touched about a quarter of it.
Sorry about that.
It is all good, man. It is gold. All right, guys. Well, Jerry, before we go, as far as like role modeling, any last quick words or thoughts on encouraging a martial arts school owner or a business operator to be a role model? And I'm thinking maybe in terms of even like for their staff. Like I have the lives of many hands of many people in my hand every day and on our team and our staff, and that's important. So any words of wisdom on role modeling for those guys?
Sure. I would say setting the example is number one. Number one. Mm-hmm. And a good friend of mine told me one time, he said, don't ever let your employees see you with your feet on the desk.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if you could come up with a better scenario than that.
That's amazing.
But being a good role model in every way.
Right.
Not just in being a good bag kicker or a good choker or something like that. You need to be a good role model in life.
Right.
And, you know, if you're down there preaching to the kids to do this and do that, you need to be a good person. Then somebody sees you coming out of a bar at 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, Sunday morning.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sorry, it just is what it is.
Right.
And you need to set the example for your employees. If you want them to stay and if you want them to work hard, you got to give them a reason.
That's right.
And being a good example for them is a good reason to stay.
That's right. That's right.
And to be in a good place that makes them comfortable to be in when they're working. They don't have to worry about foul language. I'm sorry, you know, we can go off into other stuff too, but nowadays we've gotten into this casual cussing thing, and it's gotten way out of hand. Owner and a boss setting that kind of discipline example in front of them, and setting the example for your employees and your helpers and your students is discipline.
Yes, sir.
That's a form of discipline that you need to put forth and make your business a success and make it look like a success.
Absolutely. All right, man. Thank you so much, Jerry.
You're
been
welcome.
Amazing.
Appreciate
Tons of
you
gold.
having me.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
We're doing it again. We got to do it again.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
All right. All right, guys. If you guys enjoyed that, hope you liked it. Comment, like it, love it, share it, subscribe to it, and all of those things. So thankful for the following and the people out there that are paying attention. And we truly, truly do hope that this is gold for you and helps you in your life and moves you forward. You guys have a great day. Thank you for tuning into the Team Chip Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget, subscribe, share, and or leave a review because we need you. We appreciate you so much, and without you, we can't make this happen. Remember, consistency is the key to success, so go out there and never be outworked.